This Spider-Man story is disturbing. Be warned, before we go any further, this video will be featuring a story of a disgusting person given an extraordinarily disgusting power which combined make up the most horrifying Spider-Verse character. His name is Patton Parnell. Story starts, Patton is frying bugs in the front yard with a magnifying glass. He refers to this recently fried bug as Test Subject 33. So we know this immediately that the kid's a little bit disturbed, right? Or maybe very disturbed. The narrator bubbles even convey this is going to be a messed up story, saying this is a universe where monsters live. You've heard it a million times, but not quite like this. This is a similar story. Look close, but not too close. The narrator alone is painting the picture that this is going to be a very twisted story from what we usually hear. Spider-Man's origin story. The story continues right after Patton's done frying bugs in the front yard with him getting ready for school. He's peeking actually on his neighbor. Yep, he's peeking on her. Her name is Sarah Jane, essentially this universe is Mary Jane. And in his own words, commencing surveillance stakeout 16. So he's done this 15 other times. He also says he must collect samples from the subject's living area for analysis. Not only does this boy refer to bugs and people as subjects, he pretty much said he was going to steal something from her room to beat off to, like, bro. Luckily, the story continues onward, and we see the entire bus of kids are calling Patton Splat and Patton. They're kind of roasting him. He's pretty much clearly the kid everyone picks on. Granted, he's deranged, so it's hard to fault him for it. But kids are evil, so whatever. On the bus, Sarah Jane actually asks to sit next to him. Yep, she asks to sit next to this creepy kid, Patton, and she starts a conversation with him. She tries talking to him about the field trip they're about to go on, and how the company uses animals for test subjects. She says it's sick, and Patton agrees. She means it's sickening that they would do that, and Patton, however, thinks it's cool to test on animals. So, a bully pops up named Gene, and Sarah actually sticks up for Patton. This whole time, he's like inner monologuing about how he can't fathom why she's talking to him, how he's never talked to a girl before, how she smells like strawberries. You know, usual creepy stuff for a kid in high school to never talk to a girl before, whatever. Sarah Jane convinces Patton to help her try and save some animals, and it's in here that Patton is bitten by a spider that's said to lay eggs within its bites. The two of them actually get a slap on the wrist for, invading an area they're not supposed to be at. But nothing, seriously actually happens to them. Patton goes home and he's tired from the bug bite, and he just sleeps it off all day. His uncle actually comes in rage. He thinks Patton's been experimenting on the local animals or the neighbors' pets again. This shows that it's not the first time. He then beats Patton, and we can see that Sarah Jane is actually overhearing this, and she starts crying. So at this point, I'd like to point out that Patton is such a disturbed little twerp, yet Sarah Jane still very clearly cares about him and has shown at least to have taken a liking towards him. But he refers to her as a test subject. Just put that all in perspective. This kid is awful. Patton is terrible, he's awful, but that's kind of the theme of the story, remember that. Patton would eventually wake up again and say he needs to eat. Regular food won't stay down, so he eats a mouse, which activates his spider powers. He then goes on to eat a cat, and he learns he can shoot webs. It looks like the cat escapes, but sadly it does not. Later on, we see in a couple panels later that there's missing cat signs hung up everywhere. Later that night, Patton's uncle comes home, ready to beat him actually, when he finds out the house is filled with bodies wrapped in spider webs. Patton then goes and kills his uncle, but before doing so, he says this. You always used to say, with great power comes a great appetite, clearly playing into the twisted vibes of this comic, right? And if that wasn't twisted enough, Doc Ock is apparently like a toted hero in this universe because Patton actually goes to Octavius High. Like, this is ridiculous. He keeps thinking about all day long in school how delicious everybody looks and how he wants to eat everybody, and he stops off at his locker and eats a freaking bird. That bully from earlier named Gene comes up and starts picking on Patton again. He's like, let's fight, just me and you, Patton, me and you by ourselves in the locker room. Let's do it at lunch. And Patton's like, lunch, huh? So then it's implied that Patton goes and actually kills Gene in the locker room then. After school, Patton is walking home. He sees the kid hanging up flyers for his missing dog that Patton probably ate. Patton sees the kid. He goes, I found test subject 67. So he's killed 66 people so far. He tells the kid the dog is back at his house. He says, follow me back to my house. It's implied that Patton eats both the kid and he's already eaten his dog already. He then thinks about how he could be a superhero, but that's boring and nobody wants to be a superhero anymore. This is when Sarah Jane stops by asking Patton if she had seen Gene. Patton is like, I actually haven't seen him. I don't even know what you see in him. And Sarah's taken back like this. She's like, oh, you're getting a little confident now. I like that. I like that in you. And Patton's like, oh, you do? Wait till you see this. And Patton kisses her. And she seems to, not mind. And then he bites her neck. He then tells her there's no girl that has ever noticed him, and she has never noticed him, which is just blatantly wrong, because she has definitely taken a liking to him. She definitely tried to notice him. She sat with him, had a conversation with him, and she defended him after they all got in trouble. She took the blame for it. She felt terrible when she heard him getting beat. She noticed him, so he's just Cap. He's big Cap right there. He gets ready to feast on her, and she tries to run. He webs off her path, and she tries to run again, but she runs into his bedroom, where she finds numerous bodies, webbed up, and his uncle still alive, screaming, with hundreds of thousands of spiders crawling all over him. If Patton wasn't creepy enough already, he crawls into the room and says, "I've never had a girl in my room before." The dude's full-on super creep, man. He's so creepy. Patton then attempts to kill Sarah, but Moreland arrives just in time and kills him instead. Sarah runs, hoping it was just a dream, later thinking to herself that it was just a dream, when thousands of spiders pour out of the bite mark in her neck. Simply horrifying and disturbing. Thankfully he's dead, right? Well, no, because when Moreland dies in the third Spider-Verse event, or at least gets stabbed, every person he's ever eaten in this web of Spider-Verse, or the web of spiders, comes back. So he's still out there. He's on the prowl. He's a monster. Hide your kids and hide your wife.